School districts are a very important part when you're looking to buy a home in Oakville. But one consideration that you may get confused on is, should you put your kid in a French immersion school? And if you do, does that cause problems for them down the road? So if you're new to Oakville, if you're looking to move into Oakville, you're searching for school districts. You're looking at the rankings, you're seeing which area, which neighborhood makes the most sense for your kids. Now, one thing that you will encounter is French immersion schools within certain school districts. Now, are you avoiding these schools because they're taught in French? And if you are avoiding them, why? So here's what you should know and should consider. Depending upon the school district and depending upon the actual school itself, French immersion intake will either be at grade 1 or 2. So when the French immersion intake occurs at grade 1 or 2, that's a very young age for your kid to be learning French. So if your kid is academically inclined, they will absorb French very quickly. And with most French immersion schools is there is a balance between French and English. Some subjects are taught in English, some are taught in French, and as the child goes throughout the school, the percentage of French varies depending upon what grade they're in. So if you're avoiding French immersion schools because you don't know much about them, you shouldn't avoid them and you should look into them because the benefits of kids um, having another language on top of whatever languages they already have is a huge asset, when you look at job prospects. So, parents get very fixated on school rankings and which school is the best and, what a particular ranking is. But when you look at the big picture, right, if a child has an additional language, and especially an additional language in Canada that you can utilize for many things, right, for government, for travel, whatever the case is, you're adding another asset for your kid to have. So I know it's a confusing topic, especially for people maybe that are newer to Canada, don't know the system, don't have any friends that have been through the system, so they have no one to ask or inquire or learn about like what French immersion is. But it's a huge asset to have because as your child, if your child went into a French immersion school, for let's say, and then they reach grade 8. At that point, they can decide, do they continue to do French immersion in high school or do they go into English stream? Um, the choice is theirs. You're not pigeonholing them. What you're actually doing is you're um, giving them an additional asset with learning another language. Now, the argument sometimes can be made is, you know, is a French immersion school right for every kid? How does the kid actually perform in the French immersion school? You know your child the best, right? And I think that if your child is like academically inclined, right, then French immersion is a really good option to look into. Another thing to factor in, especially in Oakville, when you look at some of the French immersion schools, they're very, very well run. They have a lot of resources. They're not overcrowded. So they're a really good option to put your child into. And I know that oftentimes French immersion schools are met with opposition, not outright opposition, but just a degree of hesitation sometimes. If you're newer to the system, newer to Canada, learning what how everything works, right? If you're moving to Oakville, but it's nothing to be worried about. It's actually an asset that your kids will have, where they basically will start at grade 1, grade 2. They can go up to grade 8, in the French immersion school, learn French, be fluent in French. So they'll have English, they'll have French, and then what other languages that you speak. So they're adding an additional language, and then at grade 8 they can decide, right, when they go to high school, do they stay within French immersion, within high school, or do they not? Do they drop French at that point? But it's definitely something that is overlooked by a lot of newer Canadians because, like, you just don't know the system, right? You haven't grown up here, so you don't know how things work, and it's kind of like insider info that you have, like, when you've grown up here. So French immersion schools, don't discount them. They are very good when you're looking at different neighborhoods within Oakville. If you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to move into Oakville, look at French immersion school because they're very good, especially. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.